Well, hello there, my friends, and welcome back. My name is Stephanie Safarian, and you're listening to episode 581 of Sustainable Minimalists. This is a listener-supported show about intentional and eco-friendly minimalist living. And on today's show, we're discussing the commercialization of minimalism. Yes, I know, minimalism means different things to different people. But I have been in the minimalism sphere for almost a decade now. I can't believe it. And I've seen some things. Specifically, it seems to me as though there are two forms of minimalism in practice these days. The first is what I call aesthetic minimalism. It's focused on the look, the white walls, the neutral linens, hidden storage, nothing on the countertops. Aesthetic minimalism often requires buying better versions of things you already own in neutral colors. The danger, of course, with aesthetic minimalism is that it treats living with less as just more options, more things to buy. And then there's the second form of minimalism, and that's what I call authentic minimalism. It's not flashy. It's not even necessarily all that cute. It's about wearing and using things until they're threadbare, until they fall apart. It's not just about buying better or buying less even. It's about getting to a place of desiring less. That's authentic minimalism. I'll even say it a better way. It's about acquiring freedom from the desire to acquire. Ooh, that is good, Stephanie. I wish I came up with that 10 years ago. That is good. Acquiring freedom from the desire to acquire. That's authentic minimalism. It even rhymes. Amazing. So today we are getting to the bottom of two very specific questions I have had on my mind for a long time. The first, of course, is the minimalist aesthetic actually driving more shopping? That's question number one. And question number two is the big one. Has capitalism corrupted minimalism, which of course is the movement, ironically enough, that's meant to reject commercialism? My guest today is Melora Johnson. She is the brains behind Sustainably Styled by Melora, where she writes and speaks on all things sustainable minimalism. Oh my goodness, Melora, I am so thrilled to have you on the show. How are you?
I'm really good. I am really excited to talk to you. It's a big event in my life since I've been listening to you for so long and have so much respect for you.
I have so much respect for you too, and I thank you for giving me your time. We're going to talk about the commercialization of minimalism. Isn't it interesting how our culture commercializes even the movement of not buying? How is that possible? I don't know. America can do it. But before we get there, I want to know about you. Tell us about yourself.
My name is Melora Johnson. I am the mother of three boys, three men, young men. I started my life in a teeny tiny town in New Hampshire and have gone all over the world since then. My claim to fame is that I have moved house about 25 times in the 40 years that I've moved out of my home. And so I think that makes me uniquely qualified to talk about stuff. Now I'm living in New York City. I have always had a desire to help people. I've done all sorts of things in my background, from working with kids in the foster care system to animal rescue to starting my own charity in Eastern Europe. And then what kind of got me here was I joined the board of a homeless shelter near my home and started a community closet for them. And that is how my journey into minimalism began.
Yeah, tell me more about that. What is a community closet, and what has the experience of starting one taught you?
A community closet is a place, the way I see it and the way I started it was I was volunteering at a shelter and we were getting tons and tons of donations. We were getting trash bags upon trash bags of donations. And when I joined, what they would do was on a kind of a monthly basis, they would take all those trash cans and shake them out in a garage, literally, and people would come in and pick through them. And it was like super undignified and I thought super awful. So I wanted to create a place where we could share in a more dignified way. So the community closet that I created I was really lucky because we had a very big, beautiful space in our campus of this shelter. And it's like a big giant store, basically, with clothing, housewares, toiletries, everything, but everything is free. And so the donations come in. I have a huge team of volunteers. We sort through it, we merchandise it, and then we give it back to the community.
Okay, I love that. I'm thinking about how I would not want to take home, let alone put on clothes that were dumped on some concrete floor
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Like presentation matters. And what I hear you saying is that presentation also can give back a bit of dignity to people who maybe have had some of their dignity stripped. But now tell me, how did this experience of running a community closet translate into minimalism for you?
What I learned very quickly, I learned a couple of things. One is that we all have way too much stuff. The amount of stuff that was coming in was absolutely mind-boggling. I have many memories of standing on top of a huge pile of trash bags, and throwing down trash bags to my volunteers to pick through and sort through. So much of the stuff we couldn't even use. It would go straight to landfill or to supposed sort of recyclers. So I learned we all have way too much. And then having done this for about 5 years, I also learned that it's the same people who keep showing up and donating time after time. And that got me really curious about what was going on. Initially, I would see people come in. I would be so grateful because often they were bringing things that were brand spanking new or almost brand spanking new, barely used. I would connect with these people. They would talk about how great they felt getting rid of it, how great it felt to pare down and declutter and all this. So I thought, okay, great. We're taking this stuff. We're giving it to people. But as they kept coming back like week after week and month after month, I realized most people weren't donating to declutter and make a change in their lives. Most people were doing this so that they could buy more.
There's a term for this, the donation high.
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to say before we talk about the donation high, like this is not a shaming conversation for anybody. I have experienced the donation high in which you pile up your trunk to the brim of stuff to pass on. And it just feels like literal and figurative weight is falling off of you. It feels so good to donate, enter the donation high. And yet, even though letting go of all this stuff feels good in the moment, for a lot of people, it doesn't interrupt the see something, want something, buy something, take the something home cycle. It doesn't inform people of future purchasing decisions.
No.
Have you ever experienced that and have any thoughts as to why that might be?
Yes. So when my kids were little, we were actually living in the UK at the time. Our experience was that the houses there are smaller. With 3 boys, we were up to the gills with stuff all the time. So every sort of 6 weeks or maybe once a month, I would just grab garbage bags and go through like a crazy woman and throw out anything that wasn't nailed down. It felt really good, but I always had this guilt because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm wasting and I'm hurting the planet and I'm filling up the landfill. So then when I discovered that you could donate things, that took away that guilt. And it made me feel like when I was donating, I was doing something that was good, like morally good and generous. And then it also gave me an off-ramp in the sense that as I continued to buy stuff, I thought, if it's not the right thing or it doesn't work out, I'll just give it away. And then I'm actually doing something good, not bad. And I think that's what happens for a lot of people. So it doesn't stop us from buying stuff because it doesn't make us ask ourselves, why are we really buying it in the first place?
Yes. I really like that answer. I was writing it down, Melora, as you were talking. You said that donating took away your guilt.
Yep.
And so if buying takes away your guilt, then the next logical step would be, well, buying and then later when I'm done with whatever it is, giving it away. That's an altruistic habit. So
Totally.
why not? Let's do more of it. Let's
Totally.
do more of this goodness. Of course, my listeners know that buying stuff with the intention of later giving it away is actually not the right choice from a financial standpoint, from a sustainability standpoint. My listeners know this, but I think a lot of people who perhaps don't consider themselves sustainable minimalists would know that. I thank you for making that point. And I guess I should just say, too, I've talked so many times on the podcast about my own minimalist journey. It started with wanting to fill up my trunk and drive to the donation center and get rid of this weight. I think minimalism starts that way for a lot of people. They're just overwhelmed with the sheer amount of stuff and the sheer amount of time, effort, energy it takes to maintain, put away, clean, all the things with this stuff. For me, though, and what this show is it's different from other minimalist podcasts. Surprise, listeners, in case you didn't notice. For me, what happened was the donating all the stuff then led to me thinking about environmental issues. So what about all the resources, renewable and non-renewable, that went into making this stuff? Wouldn't it be better if I only bought what I needed instead of buying stuff and then making myself feel better and making myself feel guilt-free and altruistic by donating it? Wouldn't it be better if I just never bought it in the first place? And so this is a really hard question, Melora. I'm sure there's no answer, but I'm just curious, why do you think that some people take it a step further and connect to the environment and other people maybe perhaps don't? Again, really hard question.
That is a really hard question. I don't know. I think probably because we're all going at such fast paces. We're all going so fast. We don't stop to ask ourselves a lot of questions. For me, it didn't happen until I was 50 years old. Like for me, I didn't start to ask those questions until I was 50 years old. And I consider myself pretty intelligent, pretty generous, thoughtful, helpful, kind person, but it didn't really occur to me. I don't know. What do you think?
Okay, well, I have thoughts.
Let's go.
This is my life. I think about this stuff all the time. But yeah. I think for one, the environment has been politicized in this country. So that right off the bat, any action, any lifestyle that's deemed eco-friendly, quote unquote, is then rejected by half of our country. That's number one. That's a real problem for the environmentalist movement in America, in my personal opinion. The environment is for everybody. It shouldn't be a political issue. That's number one. And number two is our culture is, everybody knows this, but it's highly commercialized. It runs on you and me buying stuff. Even from birth, we have been advertised to, we have explicitly advertised to, but also we have implicitly absorbed the dominant messages of our culture. And the dominant messages are buy. Buy when you're happy. Buy when you're sad. Buy when you're stressed. Buy to make your life easier. Just keep on buying and don't ever think about the consequences of such buying. So in my opinion, it's a two-pronged attack on minimalism, let's say, sustainable minimalism in particular. And so that's really what I'm interested in chatting with you about today. I can't believe I've done 580-something episodes and never really talked about the commercialization of minimalism. If you look around, minimalism, which in my opinion, so like everybody has these different definitions of minimalism, but for me, minimalism is the conscious choice to live better with less. Like I'm always asked in interviews, like, what's your definition of minimalism? That's what it is, the conscious choice to live with less for me. And yet even living with less, minimalism, has somehow been commercialized. Do you have any just examples of that you've seen in your own life that make you do a double take because it just seems so ridiculous?
Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts about that. I think that anything that resonates with us gets commercialized in our culture. It's just the way it is. And you mentioned how we're marketed to from the day we're born. It's so true. And that's always a part of like what I write about, what I speak about. It's not about letting people off the hook. It's just about asking people to be a little bit more aware of what is actually going on. I don't know, like an example for me, I happen to live right next to the Container Store here in New York City. Right there. That is just, in my mind, absurd. I cannot walk by it, and I walk by it every day without giggling because it's buy all this stuff. And I mean, it is a big store, and you will feel better. Your life will be better. Your life will be calmer. The whole thing. That is, to me, a great example. Another example is like Kim Kardashian's home is a minimalist mansion. Okay, so it's worth $60 million, right? And there's pictures of it, and you can go through, and it's so white, and it's so natural, and it's so light, and it's so this and that. But that is such a contradiction in and of itself, because we know that that is not like actual authentic minimalism. That is the commercialization of minimalism and giving us a look to aspire to.
I think what I hear you saying there is the minimalist aesthetic has been marketed. I always talk about the Crate and Barrel catalog on this show because when I was a newbie minimalist, I wanted the Crate and Barrel catalog home.
Yep.
Yeah, I wanted the look. But even that look is purchased, right? That look demands that I throw out all the furniture in my house or donate it, get rid of it to usher in tens of thousands of dollars of new quote unquote minimalist furniture. The fact that commercialism, capitalism, if you will, has taken minimalism, which is a centuries old tradition rooted in less is more. It has taken a centuries old tradition and warped it, bastardized it, if you will, is evidence to me of the fact that commercialism is just so sneakily pervasive in this culture, in this country.
So sneakily pervasive. When I started my business, which is called Sustainably Styled, my sort of idea was to help people live better with less. So I would work with people and help them declutter their homes. My vision was that I would help them weed out the stuff that they really did love to create and get rid of the clutter and to create these spaces that they could feel good about and feel comfortable in. But what I found time and time again is as we would go through this process, what people really wanted at the end was that commercialized view of minimalism. They wanted the Crate and Barrel catalog, and they wanted the natural woods and the white stuff and the empty spaces. And so to me, that was like, it was super depressing, and it was further proof that the commercialism of minimalism is a really big thing.
Talking about that aesthetic minimalism that a lot of people are drawn to, myself included. I'm never going to shun a Crate and Barrel catalog home. Like, that looks lovely. I would like one. I do not have one. But does aesthetic minimalism have any benefits beyond aesthetics, in your opinion? Like, if somebody was on their minimalist journey and they got off the minimalism highway at aesthetics, would there be any value, any benefits to getting off there? Or, so again, two-part question, or does the minimalist aesthetic, does getting off the highway at that point, does it just drive more shopping?
I'm afraid it drives more shopping. I'm afraid there really isn't. And I've thought about it. I've looked into it. I've hoped that there was some benefit to it, but I don't really think that there is because I think it drives more shopping. And then what happens is it keeps changing, right? So that vision, that view keeps changing. So Crate and Barrel comes out with another 50 items every month, or probably way more than that. So I think that no, there is no benefit until you do the work, until you ask yourself the big questions of why you're buying what you're buying, until you get really clear with yourself about what's important to you. No, I don't think there's any benefit to aesthetic minimalism. It's just another thing to spend your time and money on.
And another thing to strive for, another
Exactly.
thing to feel bad about yourself because you don't have, another thing to try and keep up with the Joneses with.
Yeah.
You go to somebody's house and they have this beautiful pottery barn. I don't even know what the stores are. Restoration Hardware. I'm sure I have people listen who think like,
What?
Carol sucks. Okay, so let's go Restoration Hardware. You go to somebody's house, they have the Restoration Hardware, like gorgeous place. You can see the catalog in their spaces. And then if aesthetic minimalism is what you're going for and you go to your friend's house and they have Restoration Hardware everything, that's just another opportunity to feel bad about yourself, right? To feel bad about your home and to feel the need to upgrade. I was reading some statistics before our conversation today, Melora, and I don't know if you knew this. I did not know that now, as of February 2026, the average American is seeing close to 10,000 advertisements a day. 10,000.
How could you not have known that?
I don't know. I thought it was more like, if I had to guess, I would have said 6,000.
Yeah.
10,000? 1 out of every 3 things that you come across on your newsfeed on Facebook is an ad? 1 out of 3, 33%? That is crazy to me. That's absolutely insane. And so amidst those numbers, minimalism, I'm not talking aesthetic minimalism, but minimalism really is countercultural at the end of the day.
Totally. That's very sad. I just want to back up for a second to what you were when you were talking about going into someone's house and their home is perfect and they have everything in the right place and there's no clutter. And I totally fell prey to that. I think we are all wired to compare ourselves. And that's part of the work, right? That's part of the work of changing our lives and maybe heading in the direction of authentic minimalism is rewiring ourselves so that we don't feel so inclined to compare ourselves to people. But in my experience, and again, this is probably like a wide generalization, but it's very often that the houses that I go into, the people that I spend time with that have those houses are also like the most stressed out, the most busy, the most, I don't want to say unhappy because that's a judgment too, but it took me a long time to realize that. But once I started to realize, that's how I was able to rewire my own brain. Like, what's it all for?
To that point, Melora, that's a really good one. Are there any tips or steps or stages that listeners can go through to help them determine whether they really are just looking for the aesthetics or whether they are looking to go a little deeper? And I ask that question, but I also have the caveat that everybody's journey is different. Minimalism is different for every person, and that's totally fine. It's like a super buffet. You can take what you want
Yep.
and leave what you don't. I do believe that minimalism at its root, not the bastardized version that we're talking about, but minimalism at its root is not selling you anything. It's not taking away from your life. I truly believe that minimalism can enrich anybody's life wherever they're at. But that said, I also feel that the further you go along the journey, the further you go inward and ask yourself some hard-pressing questions, the more you do that inner introspection, but also that cultural critical thinking. Like, you look critically at the fact that 1 out of 3 things on your newsfeed on Meta platforms are ads. Like, wait a minute. The more we just start questioning and asking difficult questions, and the further you go on the minimalist journey as a result, the more benefits one will experience. And so that's a really long way of asking, like, how can listeners who are just beginning on their journey keep going and not get off at the aesthetic minimalism exit?
It's really about pausing. Like we all have to pause and really just maybe even stop and figure out what is truly important to me. it's going to be something that's different probably than what's important to you, but what's really important to me? And am I living my life? Am I making my choices, buying my things, living my life in a way that supports that? So you got to stop, you got to pause and ask yourself these kind of big questions. And I think that's hard because people are going so fast trying to keep up with everything that's being shown to us and told to us. And so really, I think that when we do that, when we stop, when we take the time, when we do the hard work and take the time to figure out what's important. I have this example that I give to people when I'm, like usually with my friends, not so much with people I'm working with, but it's so you value your kids, right? You love your kids. We all love our kids. You love all kids. Like you want to make the world a better place. Your kid wants this brand of sneakers that happens to be made from a company that engages in child labor. So what are you really doing? Are you really living your life in accordance with what you believe in, that everybody's children are important? So I think just stopping, slowing down and asking the questions, am I living my life in accordance with the things that are important to me, my family, my community, helping other people, the planet? That's how to go from just aesthetic minimalism to genuine, authentic, I think.
100%. And I'll be honest, Melora, I often ask that question to guests, and guests on the show always give the same answer you gave. I think it's the right answer.
Yeah.
You got to stop. You got to pause. You got to check in with yourself. You got to shut out the noise, because the noise is telling you, don't think.
Yeah.
Don't do that critical thinking. Just do what we're telling you to do. Essentially, at the end of the day, just take the pill, the blue pill or whatever it is from the Matrix. I forgot. Is it blue or red? I don't remember. But just drink the Kool-Aid, essentially, because the economic forces that benefit when we continuously and unconsciously buy will be rightly threatened if a lot of us stop, pause, look within, and align our purchasing habits with our values. That's just the way it goes. And so then that leads me to my next very predictable question, Melora, which is that, again, life is busy. We are busy. We are over busy. We are stressed out. I woke up at 3 a.m. this morning and I couldn't go back to sleep because my mind was just racing with all the things that's on my plate and all the stresses that keep me up at night, literally keep me up at night. How can we find more time in our lives, more space in our days to do that critical stopping, pausing, introspection? Because again, if we don't do it, we're cutting our own minimalism journey short, and cutting it short is only ultimately just serving ourselves.
Okay, so the question is...
Okay, let me try again. The question is, how can we find time in our busy lives and days to stop and pause?
During my married life, so I am divorced, I would say we were 100% on that keep up with the Joneses and blow right by them. My husband at the time, he would always say, I'm just working a little longer, a little harder because I want a house on the water. When we have a house on the water, we can relax. And house on the water didn't sound that bad. That sort of kept me going for a while. Long story short, we got our house on the water and we promptly got divorced. I think things have to feel not so great. I think things have to stop working enough, stop feeling good enough that we really don't have a choice.
Okay, so I love Oprah. And Oprah, I'm going to ruin her quote, but she says, your soul essentially whispers. And if you don't listen to the whisper, it'll eventually shout. Tell me if I'm wrong, but what I think I hear you saying is that it starts by listening to those whispers before they become shouts.
Yep. And that's hard because your initial question is, how do we do that? I'm not really sure. I think people like you and me and have to keep talking about it, putting it out there as an idea to combat everything else that is being put out there to convince us not to do that.
Yeah. Or even just having conversations like this, telling other people that, hey, wait, there is a different way of doing things, a different way of living life. You don't have to do it now. But if there's a whisper inside that says, maybe you should listen. And when you're ready, if your journey takes you this way, there's a group of us doing it. I think that's really powerful too.
So powerful. Growing that community. I would say that in my personal life and my personal experience, a lot of the people in my circle, a lot of the people that I know, for many of them, hearing me talk about my experience and hearing me talk about how I've benefited from going down this path, it's like they've never heard of it before. And when they do, they are so grateful and they are so appreciative. And stuff that I've been thinking about now for years, it's when I start talking about it, it's, oh my God, what a revolutionary idea. That really is changing my life, or that really. So that's why I do what I do, because I think we can push that idea, we can grow that community, we can talk about it, and that will help people maybe start listening to their whispers.
I love that. Listen to your whispers. Listen to your whispers, everybody.
Listen to your whispers. It's like I'd have this funny example. So when in 2008, I was living in the UK, one of my best friends, she co-produced a film called The True Cost. Have you seen The True Cost?
Yes.
Okay. Have you watched it with your daughters?
No.
Oh, dear God, you must watch it with your daughters. So this is back in 2008. And she's talking about fast fashion. She's talking about sustainability. She's talking about minimalism. And at the same time, she started this store called Beige, where that's all they sold was like eco-friendly, sustainable products. And at that point in my life, my reaction to it was like, okay, that's great for you because, you're married to a famous movie star and you have resources beyond what I could ever imagine. So that's really great for you and for people like you. But for me, and so that was in 2008. It was not for 10 years that I realized that didn't really make any sense, even though she was like right there in my face and a very big part of my life. So again, I think we have to be like ready. We have to be ready.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And for the rest of us, what's our job? Our job is to continue on our own journeys, number one. Like, I don't know where I haven't made it. Who knows where I'm going next on my minimalist journey? But it's also to plant seeds for those who are coming up behind us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Plant the seeds. Maybe they'll sprout into something phenom, but maybe they won't. We've been talking about journeys and minimalist highways. It sounds like your place on the minimalist highway, let's say, brought you to do some great things for others. So tell us, where can we find you?
You can find me. My website is sustainablystyledbymalora.com. I have a blog and I have a Substack, and I love connecting with anybody with similar thoughts and feelings. And I'm super grateful to be here with you today.
Oh my gosh, this was so fun. Melora, thank you so much. I enjoyed every second of our conversation. Thank you. Listeners, that's a wrap, my friends. Show notes are at MamaMinimalist.com/581. Few quick things before we say goodbye. Book Club, Monday, March 2nd, 7 p.m. Eastern. A few of you have reached out and said you haven't gotten an email on it yet. That's because I haven't sent it yet. I'm currently stranded in Florida because of the nor'easter that just passed on through New England. So you haven't gotten an email yet because I haven't sent one. Be on the lookout. It's coming soon. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I promise. Book Club, March 2nd, 7 p.m. We are reading the book titled Awe. It's linked in the show notes. We will be back next week where we're talking about how our physical surroundings, our homes, can meet our basic psychological needs for growth, for agency, for connection, or our physical surroundings cannot meet those needs. So we have to be intentional about setting up our physical surroundings to meet our needs. That's next week's episode. I will see you next week, and take care.